Welcome into the big one, too, here on 365 Sports, brought to you by Shorty's Pizza Shack. I'm Paul Catalino, alongside JD Piquel, Armstrong Sims, and Jack McKenzie producing. And again, thanks to Shorty's Pizza Shack. If you're in town for the BYU game this weekend, you're watching us, please stop by Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Check out their website, shortyspizzashack.com. Great pizza, great wings, great everything at Shorty's Pizza Shack. JD, a crazy week in college football in general. I mean, you know, if before, I know the show's the big one too, but we have to acknowledge a couple things. Penn State and Iowa was a fantastic game, a slobber knocker of a game in Iowa, and Iowa gets a big win. They're number 3 in the country. If you had told me that A&M was going to beat Alabama last week, I would have told you, like, I don't know, like, did they replace Alabama with, like, mannequins of the Alabama players and jerseys?
Right.
I would have believed that. But the number 1 team in the country who looked very much like the number 1 team in the country. This wasn't a team that was barely hanging on to number 1. They go down. And then you throw into the mix what happened in Dallas at the Texas OU game. This is one of the wildest weeks in college football that I can remember in a long time.
And Ole Miss and Arkansas, where there was
Ole Miss
virtually no defense played, and Lane Kiffin throwing his clipboard in the stands. And, I mean, their Arkansas quarterbacks running for 3 touchdowns, throwing 3 touchdowns. Like, we got spoiled this weekend. And to go back to A&M, they did it with a backup quarterback. Like, the guy that you said was the best on your roster, you had somebody else playing quarterback. I mean, there were probably real-life injuries for people storming Kyle Field. Like, that was not a good move by A&M to storm the field. I get it. I would have done it too, but, like, that was a bad aftermath for sure.
There needs to be, you know what? We're going to start something. We need to do more research on it. But never paying for a beer again needs to be like our category for like players.
Okay.
Zach Calzada, whatever happens for the rest of his career at A&M, is never paying for a beer again if anybody was at that game.
Which
like
means
in the bar.
His career may go like this as the number of beers that he doesn't pay for increases. His play may decrease, but I mean, he's going out a winner.
I'll tell you right now, Kennedy Brooks, never paying for a beer again. Never. Caleb Williams, never paying for a beer again. You know, those kind of things.
Yeah, well, you know, who never had to pay for a beer again was Johnny Manziel after they went in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, didn't wind up good for him.
But it wasn't good.
But you get what I'm saying. There was I mentioned on the post-game show with Brian the other day, like I call it, might be like the Bucky Richardson. You got to find a guy like Bucky Richardson. It was at A&M, was their quarterback. Believe me, he's not like ever, you know, RG3 here. I mean, I mean, just never like, no, your money's no good here. Maybe it's the your money's no good here award. That's what it should be. The your money's no good here award goes to those guys that week because, believe me, if they're fans of anybody, like Fred Hoiberg in Iowa State basketball, doesn't, you know, like he walks into Ames. Like, what? Has Fred Hoiberg paid for a steak in Ames? No.
You probably think
no,
not.
he hasn't. Yeah. Absolutely not. Has Christian Laettner, as wealthy as Christian Laettner is, ever paid for a meal?
I would hope not. Not in
Winston-Salem?
Not in Durham.
No, never. Ever. Never. Not ever. No. So that's the kind of things that happen this week across college football. There are guys that solidified free meals and alcohol for the rest of their lives as long as they're within the vicinity of the fans of their respective schools. But we're going to talk about Oklahoma and Texas last because there's an offshoot of that is way bigger than that individual game for Oklahoma as the season continues in their newfound quarterback controversy, if you can even call it that, but quarterback situation that they have at Oklahoma. First off, let's talk Baylor and West Virginia. This is a game I thought would be a little bit closer than it was. I thought the defenses would really show out. I think what we saw is a West Virginia defense that is spent from not having an offense that can back them up. As talented as they may be or fundamentally sound on defense, the RVO offense worked for Baylor. And what Jeff Grimes wants with that is he's daring you to pick how you would like to lose the game if you had to lose it, if that's the best way to put it. Like, we think we can handle Gary Bohannon throwing the ball. We can handle that. Well, second play of the game, you found out, no, you can't. Can't do it. Gary Bohannon has his coming out party. The training wheels are off, and the RVO offense is starting to flourish for Baylor a week after it didn't look good at all against Oklahoma State. Your thoughts on that game and how Baylor responded to a terrible offensive performance with an elite one?
Well, credit to you because I think you called that last week on the show was maybe we take the training wheels off of Gary Bohannon now, and we saw what he did, rode the bike like a champ. But I think you said it very, very well. The counterpunch of this Baylor offense. Everybody knows the fastball for Baylor is we want to be able to run the outside zone. We want to be able to, or I guess wide zone. We want to be able to run the football. And that was their calling card the entirety of the season. That's what they had on tape. That is what drove a lot of people crazy against Oklahoma State was, okay, they're running the football time and time and again into what felt like a brick wall. Now you come back home, play a good defense in West Virginia, whose front seven is really the focal point of that team, and they just go over the top multiple times to Tyquan Thornton, a guy who we were looking at last year and saying, man, if they could just get him going, if they could just utilize his speed. And so the big arm of Gary Bohannon, paired with the speed of Tyquan Thornton, paired with what Baylor had already put on tape, opened just a myriad of passing lanes for this offense. And it was just so exciting to see because it felt like for the first time, okay, the experiment, this whole plan that we've been hearing time and time again in Waco of, okay, just trust the process, trust the RVO offense, trust the run-first approach. Finally, we saw the exciting part of that, the dividends, the deep pass game.
Yeah, because, again, they were early on, you could say, like, they were daring it. And then even after that second play, they kept doing it because they're like, well, stuff happens. It happens.
Yeah.
Get you back together on the sideline. We'll talk about it, guys. It was 7-7 at that time. They went back down the field and scored on a very similar play that Baylor ran, just a little slant route that went the distance. But, or I guess that theirs didn't go the distance, but it got them down into into scoring range. But after that, Baylor's defense locked down, turnovers, sacks, like all those things. Apu Ika was fantastic. Had his biggest game. I feel really bad for Jarrett Dagey on that first sack where Apu ran just right through him. So you saw a lot of good things for Baylor. And for West Virginia, they've got a lot of questions. Garrett Green at quarterback is something their fans are going to continue to clamor for because Seth Dagey is average at best at his best moments. But Garrett Green also, I'll tell you, the one deep ball he threw didn't have a lot of mustard on it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't getting there in a hurry. And I think that's why you haven't seen a lot of Garrett Green if you're a West Virginia fan, although maybe you just run an offense where you like Garrett Green, go make something happen and see what happens after that. Because right now, their season's in jeopardy.
To a certain point, I think that's exactly the case. You have to decide if you're West Virginia, okay, how committed are we to Jarrett Dagey? This whole Jarrett Dagey experience, if you will. Because if you're playing Jarrett Dagey, you're airing it out. You're going to live with his mistakes. You're going to get sacked a lot. They got sacked 5 or 6 times against Baylor. You're going to have to live with his poor decision-making. If you go with Garrett Green, it's going to be a much more run-heavy offense. You're going to have to ask that offensive line to do some run blocking. You're going to have to ask Letty Brown to take something off his shoulders. And so I think the deal for West Virginia is, okay, how married are we to this scheme, and how difficult will it be for us with Garrett Green to do a 180 with what we want to do on offense? Because that defense has a lot of pieces. That defense we saw against Virginia Tech looked really solid. They got a lot of great athletes. They're very streaky right now, and I think they also, like you mentioned, are kind of close to not waving that white flag, but you can only take so much when your offense doesn't do anything with the football. That wears on a defense to be out there for so many plays at a time. So I really do think for West Virginia, you might have to reassess your approach offensively. And then as a defense, you got to find a way to just kind of dig deep sometimes and find a way to get your offense back on the field to give them a chance to get in rhythm.
You've got to. The offense has to protect the defense, just like the defense needs to. It's got to be a two-way street, at least in some regards. I know that the scales tip from team to team, but you've got to do something. And I often think that like a good offense can overcome a bad defense better than a good defense can overcome a bad offense, because eventually you're going to play a team with a good offense against your good defense that a bad day is 24 points, and then let's look at A&M and Alabama. A&M has an elite defense, and they gave up 38 points the other night, or 31, whatever it was, to Alabama. That's not a lot to give up to Alabama. You're going to have nights where you give that up. Well, it's about getting stops and moments then. But if you have no morale, knowing that this stop is going to result in points, we saw it from the Baylor defense last year. They get stopped. Eventually, it's just like you don't have any more left.
You can't create points.
Yeah, you're knowing like I better catch this ball and return it the other way because our offense can't do the same thing. They can't do it. And so West Virginia is kind of in that right now. TCU responds after 2 losses in a row in a big way over Texas Tech, 52-31. Really good game for TCU offensively, but defensively, Travius Hodges-Tomlinson was one of the Big 12 players of the week, and he should have been. He had a fantastic game, but he was the bright spot on that defense. The rest of the defense is not very Gary Patterson-esque.
And that's what's going to keep them, I think, from reaching their potential, which I hate to say because myself included thought that this was going to be a defense that was going to pair really well with the offense. The question going into it was, well, can Max Duggan take you the distance? Can Max Duggan be that guy that you can lean on? We were all counting the defense as kind of being the strength of the team in a lot of ways. And so for them to come out, and not just on one occasion, but on like now 3 or 4 occasions, whether it's this game, SMU, Texas, like they have proven on multiple occasions they don't have the juice. They don't have what it takes for them to be in that upper tier of the Big 12. I think the offense does. I think Zach Evans and Miller both running for 143 and 185 yards respectively. You run for 394 yards as an offense, you're going to win just about every football game you play. On the flip side of that, your defense has to keep up there under the bargain too, because we saw in multiple games in other parts of the country, Arkansas and Ole Miss included, you got to have a little bit of defense to be able to win a game.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach Evans got more carries this week.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot more. They didn't have to give him a whole lot more. The game was so much in their favor, by the, start of the second half. It wasn't even fair. But, they were up, 35-10 at halftime. That was what it was going to be. Texas Tech, again, back into that. What are they getting out of Matt Wells? Like, what is Matt Wells' future? Here's the thing. I don't think the fans are excited by Matt Wells. Mm-hmm. He's boring to them. And all the coaches since Mike Leach have been boring to them. Because Mike Leach is anything but boring.
Oh, the antithesis.
And so their happiest times as a football program. And the best coach they had before Mike Leach was Spike Dykes, who was one of the most ebullient people in the world. Very happy, very funny, like great, a real, mascot for the program.
Sure.
As a coach. I mean, and then you have Mike Leach who's doing this great offense. I just think that like Matt, he's not enough for them.
Yeah.
Even if the team might be getting better or they might need to give him more time or let him find what Texas Tech really has to be, nobody wants to waste that time in Lubbock. They've already decided they want something that's more them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a huge question for Matt Wells right now.
Yeah, and I think the not having Tyler Shuck the rest of the way like he planned to, like Tyler Shuck was kind of his, okay, we're going to come in and we're going to win some games, because you don't bring in a grad transfer quarterback unless you need to win now. Look around the program or look around the country, with the exception of schools like Oklahoma, most teams groom a quarterback and allow him to kind of plug and play. I'm looking at the rest of this Texas Tech schedule. Outside of Kansas, I don't see a sure win. They go at Kansas. Still, they have to go on the road. They play Kansas State at home, at Oklahoma, Iowa State at home, Oklahoma State at home, then at Baylor to end the year. Outside of Kansas, I don't know if I peg any one of those as a win. And if if they do win one of those games, it's going to be hard fought, and it might be because they catch one of those teams on a down day. And so for Texas Tech, it's like, well, what does that put you at to finish the year? Like 5-7? 5-7 doesn't keep coaches around, especially with Matt Wells and what you've seen from him so far. So I think his seat is very warm. And I hate to say that, but I think his seat's getting toasty.
Yeah, I do. You don't like to see most coaches get fired. I mean, you have this very few rare people that need to be.
Sure.
But Urban Meyer. Sorry.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, it was just I had a thing. That's what it sounds like when I cough all the time.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like I cough. But you have those instances. This is just one of those that, like, it just feels that, like, they made a hire that doesn't make their fans happy, and they're not going to get through that. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to it. Red River Rivalry. Holy cow. This is a game Oklahoma had no business winning. None, zero, zip, zilch. Mm-mm. And they came back and did it. They're down 28-7 in the first quarter. Most of the time, throw dirt on them. It's over. Start writing the eulogy, but that wasn't the case. Lincoln Riley makes a very, very gutsy decision to go to a guy who hasn't played very much, Caleb Williams. I mean, I don't know how many snaps he had really before, and none of it was in crunch time, in key moments. Spencer Rattler's the guy, and they're trying to make Spencer Rattler work. He was the highest recruited quarterback in the country. He had a really good end of the year last year. It looked like he had taken some huge steps forward, but even after Kennedy Brooks runs that ball in, and 55-48, Oklahoma wins, I just get the feeling that Caleb Williams has that team's heart, and Spencer Rattler doesn't. I'll just tell you, I can just give you, when I was in college, after Florida State had been in the national title game the first 3 years, Chris Winkie leaves, Chris Ricks takes over. Chris Ricks was a perfectly athletic and very capable quarterback, but he would lose games because of turnovers, and he had a couple great wins. He beat Notre Dame in South Bend. He beat Florida on a long pass towards the end of his career, and that was great. But early in his career, he could not manage the team. The team, he didn't like him. That team, those guys did not respond to him. And no matter whether he was the best option or not, he never really won their hearts and he never really got their trust. And so it became a thing going forward in his career. It was just kind of this up and down roller coaster of that. And I see a little bit of that in Spencer Rattler, in that, you know, for better, for worse, I don't know if he and the team identify with each other, because he's coming off of Netflix and being a reality star and the number one guy in the country, and he's got the biggest NIL deals and all that, and that's all great. I don't think he plays worse because of the NIL deals or the Netflix show. I think he just does not meet the other guys on their level. I think that is something that leaders need to do. You don't have to like him, but you have to be able to meet him on their level. And I don't get that from him. I don't think they have a lot of faith in him as teammates right now.
And that was what the sideline reporters were saying. Like, I wasn't there. I was watching that from the comfort of my own couch. I couldn't tell you anything besides I saw that team play better with Caleb Williams, whether he's a better quarterback, whether it just gave them some new hope, whatever. But to say that team actually had a different sense of morale with Caleb Williams in the game, a 19-year-old true freshman, stepping into the game and giving your team a new vibe as a whole, that says a lot about Caleb Williams. I'm not so sure it doesn't say more about Spencer Rattler. To your point, I'm not so sure that he had that locker room to begin with. He might have been the best quarterback. He might have been the best player for that point in time leading up to that game, but he wasn't ever really, felt like at least, the alpha dog, the alpha leader for that locker room. So now there's a ton of facets to this to unpack. And the first of which being, okay, let's say you don't go with Spencer Rattler. Let's say Caleb Williams steps in and starts to do poorly. Spencer Rattler, I mean, is he even want to come back and play for them? Does he even want to be the starter anymore? And maybe that's a foolish thing to say, but let's dream with me for a second here. What we know about Spencer Rattler from a character standpoint, at least based on the Netflix show, based on the way he's reacted to adversity outside of being benched a year ago, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can only be benched so many times before you're like, all right, I'm above this. In the same token, you go back to Spencer Rattler, he plays poorly. The entire team, the fan base was already off Spencer Rattler, but the entire team, everybody in that locker room is probably thinking, well, came back from 18 down against Texas, so we're so sure we got the right guy playing quarterback. So you might have a locker room divided. I'm with you. I think it's Caleb Williams' team. Whether or not he starts is irrelevant. It's going to be Caleb Williams' team at some point in the very near future. And so Lincoln Riley has to decide how he wants to play that.
Yeah, I think Spencer Rattler is really close to jumping into that portal.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that this is where it goes. And I don't think this is it for Spencer Rattler. And I'm surprised. Of all the people you would think would maybe get through to a guy, it would be Lincoln Riley. But maybe that's not it. Maybe there's another coach that gets through and gets those bad habits, those things that you're going to see in Chalk Talk today, those out of him. Those things where – and he doesn't – like the other thing that's surprised me about Spencer Rattler, he's not playing confident. And that was the one thing I thought about him was like he's confident.
To a fault.
Yeah. You know, like he's confident. Like you maybe need to, or what? Maybe they made him too, like they took it away too much. But yeah, he was playing confident. He's not playing confident right now. And I think that for the good of Oklahoma, it's got to be Caleb Williams. And I think that you have to, Craig Smoke said today on the show, you can't get a guy benched in your number one rivalry game 2 years in a row and then roll him back out there. The fans will revolt. And that's not what you want if you're Lincoln Riley. And and Lincoln Riley's, you know, in a tough position where he knows what Spencer Rattler can do. I understand him riding with Spencer Rattler because he's waiting to see those big plays again. And then all of a sudden he takes him out because he thinks, well, there's no way that this true freshman could do what Rattler was doing right then. I have a system. It works. And then he comes in and the big plays, which have been absent for Oklahoma all year long, are suddenly back. Marvin Mims is involved in the offense again. The running game is really scary. Kennedy Brooks was fantastic. So yeah, I think they got to make a change.
They got new life. And I think it's tough because it was against Texas, right? Like if it's against any other Big 12 team, maybe it's not the headline that it is, but it was in prime time against your number one arch nemesis college. Like the stage could not have been bigger. And so for Spencer Rattler to play the way that he did, for Caleb Williams to respond the way that he did, I'm with you. There will be riots in Norman if Caleb Williams is not the guy.
If Spencer Rattler wasn't playing well and got hurt against Kansas State, and Caleb Williams came in and made a couple big plays and won the game, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Spencer Rattler got hurt, Caleb Williams came in. Yeah, maybe it's just a minor thing. Like he gets his shoulder dinged and a stinger and he can't play for the rest of the game. He's back next week and starting. But this is Texas in the Cotton Bowl at the fair. Corny dogs all over the place. I mean, there's no way there's no way to come back from that to me if you're Spencer Rattler, at least in the short term. And now in college football, that means transfer portal. So
I tweeted it mid-game. I said he's in the portal already. It's the third quarter, and Spencer Rattler is already headed to Arizona or Arizona State or wherever he's going to go. But if he,
believe me, there will be no shortage of suitors for him.
Oh no,
he will get to go where he wants to go. It's not going to be like there are people who are like, no, we don't want Spencer Rattler. Like maybe Ohio State doesn't because they have a guy that's the same exact year as him. But Spencer Rattler, at the beginning of the year, you think maybe this guy could be one of the top picks in the NFL draft. He's played his way out of the NFL draft right now. He's got to come back.
He's got to come back. Yeah, I'm 100% with
you. Play somewhere else. So he's got to come back, and that's he'll get to go where he wants to go because believe me, as talented as he is, there's a coach that believes I can do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
I was going to say, there's one thing we need to be careful of is Caleb Williams. I know we're giving him the crown. I know he played absolutely unbelievable. Like, he deserves all the credit he's getting. To the same token, there was no film on Caleb Williams going into that game. Like, the Texas defense, there's a whole lot of film now. And this Texas defense was preparing all week long for number 7, 13 shots out there. Totally different offense, totally different playing style. Like, just looked worlds better than anything that Texas had to deal with. And so I think, like, the element of surprise will no longer be there next week. TCU shorthanded. TCU is not the defense we think they are or thought they were going into the year. To the same token, though, I mean, they're going to have some things cooked up for the young freshmen.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. I think it wasn't just they didn't have film in it. In no way in Texas's brain was Spencer Rattler coming out of that game.
No, not in my brain.
I mean, that was the thing. Like, none of us thought that.
No, not when I picked the game.
The Oklahoma student section was the only one who thought Caleb Williams can come in this game. They're the only one who thought that.
Yeah.
That's it. No one else thought that was going to happen. So because of that, like, it wasn't even – I guarantee you they spent no time preparing for – I mean, there was no film. Like,
no.
What was the film on Caleb Williams? A couple of handoffs and maybe a couple throws in the blowout game?
Yeah, the running packages.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, so there's none of that was in there. And then when he comes in on the 4th and 1, they're like, well, just don't let him get one.
Stack the box.
Yeah, I mean, that's the defense is don't let him get one. And they drew it up well. He just outdid them.
Yeah.
He just outdid them with his athleticism.
Superman.
So, and again, Lincoln Riley's probably going to have to morph the offense into what Caleb Williams does, which I think he's probably fine with. It just, let's see how teams react down the line. It's going to be interesting as we go forward. Coming up next, we look at the week ahead in the Big 12. Everybody's back playing. Nobody has the week off, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think nobody has the week off. Whatever. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy on the internet who corrects me when I'm wrong. Get out of your mother's basement, go to a park, see a movie, ask a girl on a date. Something, just be better than that. This is the big one, too. 365 Sports. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by. Welcome back into the big one, too, here on 365 Sports. Please like and subscribe when you get a chance. Thanks to Shorty's Pizza Shack for their sponsorship of the show. Please go get a slice there. Get some Sikkim sauce wings. Get some regular wings. Get some chili cheese fries. Get a pizza pillow. Have a little mini pitcher of beer. Have some Boone's Farm for $4 on Saturdays. You can do that. I pretty much gave you the whole menu. They have salads, but I'm not gonna. They're not Shorty's.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not Shorty's Salad Shack.
Yeah,
I mean, they're good, but I would never tell somebody to go anywhere and eat a salad.
Yeah. It's all maybe if you're like there and you're still a little bit hungry, maybe get one.
Maybe
get it to go.
Maybe you're just trying to feel better about what you just ate. You have a salad and say, well, at least it had some greenery. But other than that, fantastic stuff at Shorty's Pizza Shack. Chili cheese dogs, they have those as well. Great stuff. Dine in or carry out, and of course you can get delivery on your various delivery apps that you may use if you're
I'm sold.
Don't want to leave the house.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, exactly. All right, JD, a full slate of games in the Big 12 this week. Let's go in chronological order. Oklahoma State and Texas. This one might be the most interesting game in the Big 12 this week. Oklahoma State, Spencer Sanders continues to be an adventure. Good Spencer Sanders is really good. Bad Spencer Sanders is really bad. There's no middle Spencer Sanders. There's either really good Spencer Sanders or really bad Spencer Sanders. And Texas is hoping the second guy shows up, especially reeling after that loss. What Texas has to make sure of is that the Oklahoma game doesn't beat them twice and that they bounce back. I think Texas has too much offense here. I think that they will figure something out, but Oklahoma State's really good on defense and could really mess things up in Austin, especially if the Horns program is as silent as its Twitter feed has been for the last couple of days.
Some shade. I like it. A little bit. Hey, the shade is the smoke is free.
It's true.
Smoke is on wholesale.
Yeah.
I mean, I still feel like I'm just at a loss. Every single week, it's like Spencer Sanders is not going to be the guy that wins the game for you. Spencer Sanders, Oklahoma State, you can't continue to win with him. And we're right that Spencer Sanders isn't probably their I shouldn't say that. I was going to say he's not their best option at quarterback. If they had a better option at quarterback, he'd probably be playing. I'm not a believer you can win the Big 12 with Spencer Sanders. I wasn't a believer you'd be undefeated number 12 in the country with Spencer Sanders. So I've been eating my words for the last however many weeks. Bottom line, if Texas doesn't let them have this hangover from the Oklahoma game, they should win this game pretty handily. They're at home. Looks like the offense is clicking. I mean, Casey Thompson to that list you were talking about, like, hey, your money's no good here. He was pretty close to being on that list in Austin, which is a great place to be on that list, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If he can be even similar to what he was last week, if Bijan Robinson can be a fraction of what he was last week, like, they are going to roll and have a freaking ball in Austin.
Yeah. By the way, Vince Young's on that list in Austin.
It's probably him and Matthew McConaughey probably.
Matthew McConaughey on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I'm sure Matthew McConaughey's not a guy you could probably, like, he seems to be nice enough to where you'd be like, no, let me get you, Matthew. He's like, no. I got it. All right.
It's all right. Green lights.
That's right. All right. BYU and Baylor here in Waco. And this is a really interesting game. Jeff Grimes, Eric Mateos came from that BYU staff last year. We spoke to Kalani Sitake on Sigum 365 Radio. Please go watch that interview. It was great. He and Dave Aranda are very close friends. He and Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos are all very close. This is a mutually respect society game. They're excited about playing each other. They run the same exact offense. Dave Aranda's defense is a little bit different than BYU's. I think it'll be an excellent game. I think I'm leaning right now, and you'll see the picks on the special segment we release on Fridays. I'm leaning Baylor right now because of what we saw last week from that offense. If they can keep that going, I'm not sure there's a lot of teams that can keep up with them outside of the upper tier teams. And BYU's very, very good, but just took a loss to what was a 2-3 Boise State team.
Mm-hmm. And we saw Jaron Hall be a little bit human. I mean, he came back from injury. It was his first game back. He is special. Like, when he's on, he's on. BYU hasn't really been dominant to this point in the season. I know they had one loss, but every game they had won, they'd kind of won in a somewhat ugly fashion, kind of gritty, grimy, pound you out kind of team. They're coming into Waco. Baylor doesn't get pushed around. Baylor doesn't have the gritty, grimy. I mean, they're pretty gritty and grimy in themselves, not to mention their own coach names is Jeff Grimes, so that makes him even more grimy. I think Gary Bohannon is starting to figure it out even more, so that's going to be a good matchup. How much does the Baylor offense continue to stay on track? Was last week a flash in the pan against a West Virginia team that's just kind of down and they don't really feel like playing anymore? Or is that going to be the Baylor offense we see going forward? So really excited to see how both teams respond from the previous week before. BYU with their loss and Baylor with what felt like a euphoric victory, finally getting back on track and looking dominant.
Yeah. Texas Tech and Kansas in Lawrence. I think Texas Tech gets back on the winning track here. They've got too much, even with their struggles lately. They get back on the winning track, but just the roller coaster kind of continues for Matt Wells in Lubbock.
Mm-hmm. I think this game's actually close. I think it's closer than we're anticipating it being. I think Lance Leipold's got that thing going the right direction. They're just still too many years away, unfortunately. And we've been saying that for a while with Kansas. I would love to see Kansas win this game. It's hard for me to pick them right now. We won't pick them because that's coming in later. But bottom line, this will be a good game, I think, better than most people think. But, yeah, I just think Texas Tech, what they've got offensively, they just recruit better than Kansas.
Yeah. All right, Basement Nerd, you're right. West Virginia's off this week.
Okay.
They're the team that doesn't play. They've got the bye this week. Baylor's just next week. Just get off my back, Internet.
Yeah.
I feel it already. I just feel it already. I don't need you to cancel me for getting this wrong. Internet. Anyway, I'm gonna save TCU and Oklahoma for the end.
Cool.
These games are at the same time. Iowa State and Kansas State. I think Iowa State still has a run in them. I really do. I think that they've got too much good going on there to not go on a run. I think coming out the bye, I'm a little worried if I'm Kansas State. Kansas State's been okay. They've been good. They've not been what I think they will be eventually under Chris Kleiman, but I think Iowa State maybe gets it going here against Kansas State.
Kansas State's just so sneaky at home, right? Yeah. If you have them in Ames, maybe this game is all Iowa State. Maybe Brock Purdy figures it out, lights it up. Breece Hall lights it up. May still happen. I just always am so weary, no matter of how Kansas State looks during the season, anytime you got to go to the Little Apple. Makes you a little bit nervous if you're the Cyclones. So it'll be a good game. I'm with you. I think that Iowa State still has more in the tank. I think the pressure is off them a little bit more now of them having to win the Big 12 and make the playoff and all the crazy expectations we put on them before this season. Think they probably play better, but again, going to Manhattan should be a good task for them.
And they still could. I mean, the thing is the conference is still wide open.
Yeah.
Loss to Iowa doesn't count as far as the Big 12 goes. So the loss to Baylor does, though.
Yeah.
And that's something they're still probably reeling from, especially coming off that Iowa loss. Like they were just – something was wrong with them. They look like they maybe have gotten it right, but I think Iowa State's got something up their sleeve. All right, TCU and Oklahoma, these are two teams on different tracks in my mind right now. TCU rebounded against Texas Tech. I don't think Oklahoma coming off that emotional win is who you want to see. Gary Patterson, has put a scare into people. He's not the defensive mind I want to see in what was probably going to be Caleb Williams' first start. As of the taping of this show,
yes,
we don't know who the starting quarterback is for Oklahoma. That's why we're assuming it's Caleb Williams. So I think that I just think Oklahoma maybe now has new life, and TCU's defense outside of Travis Hodges-Tomlinson has too many problems, and maybe he makes some plays because that's what he does, but I think Oklahoma's probably feeling pretty good right now, and might have the dragon might have awoken from his slumber.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in the same way that I'm worried about Texas after the Red River hangover, I'm a little bit concerned about Oklahoma in the same way. I mean, it's going to be at home. You're probably feeling yourself, like you said. Let's assume Caleb Williams is the guy for them at quarterback. He's going to have his first start against a defensive mastermind. And the defense for TCU isn't good. And I think it's more of a personnel thing than anyway. Hodges-Tomlinson is an absolute dog. I think they got some other pieces in the secondary that need some help. But Gary Patterson is going to throw, if nothing else, an exotic defense at this young quarterback. It's not going to be the same defense he saw a week ago against Texas. He's going to have a lot more of a difficulty processing it, or he's at least it'll be more of an effort for him to process it. So I think that could potentially be an interesting game. I probably still think that Oklahoma's got a lot of horses that could give TCU problems, but I think that again TCU's gonna give them their best shot, as every team does for Oklahoma. They're in their Big 12 schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's see what Gary Patterson has. I mean, because if you tell a guy, like, you've got one game to fix something and here's what we're going to do and give him that time, he's the kind of defensive mastermind that can get it done, and especially in times where you're like, no way. Mm-hmm. No way. That's what Gary Patterson does. He's just annoying enough to get that done for a lot of teams. Mm-hmm. When we come back, JD breaks down why Caleb Williams was so successful against Texas, what he brought that Spencer Rattler just wasn't doing. This is the big one, too, in 365 Sports. Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125. Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com. Welcome back into the Big 1-2 here on 365 Sports on YouTube. Please like and subscribe when you do. If you don't, it will snow again like it did in February, and we'll all have no power. Just gonna happen.
Whoa!
Like we can't have that. We couldn't deal with that in Texas.
Stakes went way up.
Yeah,
stakes are high.
Yeah, you're tempting the weather gods now if you don't like and subscribe. You don't want to do that. I'm Paul Catalina alongside JD Piquel. Of course, thanks to Shorty's Pizza Shack for their sponsorship. Go out to Shorty's Pizza Shack. You're here in town. I hope some West Virginia folks went out while they were there. I hope some BYU folks pop in while they're in town this week for BYU and Baylor. But JD, the big story of the week, and we've talked about it earlier in the show, OU and Texas, one of the most epic games in the history of that rivalry. It was ridiculous. It was unbelievable. And it all happened because Spencer Rattler got benched and Caleb Williams came in. You're going to highlight what Caleb Williams did that Spencer Rattler wasn't doing. And really, not that Caleb Williams played this artsy, perfect game, because he didn't. He had some times where you could tell this was his first real action. But Spencer Rattler has not been making big plays. Caleb Williams did all game long from the moment he went in. So show us what's going on here at the OU quarterback position.
It would be my pleasure. I think you hit it on the head. The team and the offense just looked substantially different under Caleb Williams. With Spencer Rattler, everyone was out of sorts. It looked like there was almost bad morale. You saw him throw that interception. We're not going to break that down, but he throws the interception, yelling at his tight end. Like, it just had kind of a heavy feel to it. This was his last turnover that caused him to eventually ride the pine for the duration of the game. Enter Caleb Williams. We're going to break this down because he does something here that Caleb Williams ended up doing much better, or I should say he didn't do something here that Caleb Williams did to a completely different degree. First of which being he kept his eyes downfield. Caleb Williams, not Spencer Rattler. So right here you got a play action. So he's going to read this backer, and he is going to fake it right here. We got a power look. Whole thing is essentially just a play action. So we'll watch it here. Play action, he's getting out there on the edge for him. So we're accounted for. We got our block right here. Everyone is accounted for. We got numbers, meaning there is not any pressure on Spencer Rattler here. Like, he can settle into his drop, get set up, maybe take a few movements to the left or the right, like the 6-inch movements quarterback coaches love to talk about that buy you all the time. I don't buy it. Anyway, Spencer Rattler panics here. He panics, he tucks the ball. The quarterback coaches tell you, hey, keep your eyes downfield because you never know who's going to pop open. Someone's going to come open at some point. You'll find a lifeline. Spencer Rattler does the antithesis of that, if that makes sense. So watch. Runs into his, so there's, again, nobody is on Spencer Rattler right now. Also, check down right here if you want it. This pocket's pretty clean. He can set up behind this and make an easy throw. Instead, he wants to panic. Again, tucks the football right here. Notice that. He can't throw from that position. He has to make a whole lot of an effort to get it back out there. Runs into his offensive lineman. He's panicking. Look at that again. Look at where his eyes are. His head is down. Look at the back of his helmet. He is not looking out here. He's not looking at his back. He's not looking back to his other options. He is in full panic mode. And what happens when you panic? Bad things happen. For Spencer Rattler, a turnover. Bad ball security. Coughs it up. And that would be the end of the day for Spencer Rattler until his 2-point conversion, which he deserves some credit for. But that's never a good sign when you see someone in burnt orange running away with your football.
Well, and just look at that. If people want to wind this back after we're done, there were 7 Longhorns on this side of the screen, which means there's only 4 guys over there on the rest of the screen, and they had numbers at some place in that wide open field because they're on the right hash. So all these people on the right side of the right hash mark, that's a win for the Oklahoma offense to start out, and then he ran it straight into a loss.
And he just looked uncomfortable the entirety of that first half. Really, the entirety of this season, he hasn't looked like the quarterback that we all expected to see. A guy who has command of the offense, command over his teammates, command of the system. He just looked panicky. He looked lost. He looked uncomfortable. So what do? You turn to the freshman. Before that, though, they're still using Caleb Williams, because Lincoln Riley's a smart guy, using him in running packages. Anytime you can use a quarterback in a running package, you got a great athlete. Most of the time, you got a big athlete, which Caleb Williams is. So right here, it's 4th and 1, and this was kind of the play where you're thinking, like, maybe they should think about putting him in the game a little more. And he's not the starter at this point yet, but he's getting some time. So right now, crucial 4th and 1. We'll circle that there for the folks at home. And Texas is all walked up. They have virtually no safeties deep. This is their safety right here, playing at 6 yards. Why? He's in run support. He's going to make sure, okay, this quarterback's in the game. What are we seeing on film? When he's in the game, they're typically running it. So right here, that's exactly what Oklahoma's going to do. They're going to run a quarterback inside zone. Very similar to other plays we've chalked up before with running backs. The inside zone means you are reading your first down lineman to a play side out. So meaning he's the first man over the football. You are going to read whichever way he goes. So he goes left, we're just going to go straight on our track. He goes right, cut up and underneath it. Good job by the Oklahoma offensive line. Get a good push right here. We're taking care of him. Awesome. Eyes go to the next defensive lineman. Great. Now out to your stand-up linebacker. He falls off, so he is free. He's ready to make a tackle for a loss. So they blocked it up great just until the edge. My man didn't get a great seal there. But what happens? Caleb Williams is Superman. Superman jump cut. Not a lot of players that can make that cut. And then the 4.6 40 kicks in. You can do a lot of things when your quarterback can tear off a 60-yard touchdown run. I mean, that is impressive, and that was kind of the moment where it's like, maybe we start to get 13 a little more time in this game.
Yeah, and Spencer Rattler doesn't do that. Spencer Rattler's mobile enough, but he doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, Spencer Rattler's the kind of mobile where like, yeah, okay, he can get away, he can move around, and you don't necessarily need your quarterback to be a runner. Mm-hmm. But when your quarterback can do things like that, you make him do things like that.
He just adds a whole new big play knack. Spencer Rattler, for fans at home, is a 4.8 40 guy, like high 4.8 40 guy, according to the Rivals. Caleb Williams, 4.6. 2.10 doesn't seem like much. In a game like this, in the college game, that's a lot. So speaking to the big play capability, again, keeping his eyes downfield. We saw that first clip of Spencer Rattler. Notice the difference here when the play breaks down. There's a little bit of an opportunity for him to panic. He drops the snap. Again, he's only a 19-year-old true freshman. Drops the snap. Eyes are downfield. So watch it right away. Boom. Uh-oh. Panic. At this point, majority of quarterbacks in the country, freshmen or not, are picking that ball up and just eating it. Maybe you're running, especially if you're a 4.6 guy, you're running, you're picking up yardage. This is essentially chalked up to let's just find a way to get positive yards. Boom. He's right back into it. Eyes are downfield. Evades pressure right there, and watch. Eyes are downfield. We'll back this up a little bit here. Eyes stay downfield. Look at his posture. He has all of this green grass in front of him. An immature quarterback, a quarterback, again, who was panicking like we saw Spencer Rattler do, would tuck it, try to pick up yardage. Instead, he's looking for my man. He said, okay, it's 3rd and 11. We got to find somebody open. So right here, he's got a high-low read. This is low, which is right by the sticks, so intermediate. And then he has another player, Marvin Mims, in the back corner of the end zone. So one, he gets it there, which is impressive. Also, look at where he throws this football. What Caleb Williams did was he knew where to miss. We say knew where to miss. He knows where that throw has to err on the side of. So if he throws it short, he's going to pick it. You throw it more inside the middle onto his right shoulder, he's going to pick it. So he knew exactly where to miss. He knew he had to miss long, and he knew he had to miss to his right shoulder, which he did a phenomenal job of putting it. Only his man could get it, and credit to him for having the guts to take that throw. So the presence of mind and just the arm talent and knowing where to miss all played to his favor and allowed him to be successful, especially on that play there.
Yeah, and this is really, for a guy's first real action, the most impressive part about Caleb Williams, I think, is this is the rivalry game. You know, no offense to Bedlam, but this is the game. Yeah. This is national TV. This is 11 o'clock. This is Fowler and Herb Street and game day and all that stuff. And he came in and did this. This kid's got something here and here. So that's why I think, you know, and again, Lincoln Riley will shepherd him properly. And also, it's clear the team was rallying around him.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't at the game, obviously. There were people on the sidelines saying, this is a totally different team. The morale of this team is totally different with Caleb Williams in the game. Maybe says more about Spencer Rattler than it does about Caleb Williams. Nonetheless, you want to have a good psyche about you, especially in a game where you have to come back by 18 points. You mentioned he's got it here, he's got it here. He's got quite a bit here as well. The arm talent of this kid is off of the charts. So a similar play to the one we just showed you. I stay downfield, he gets pressure, does a great job handling the pressure. So watch right here, we got a man coming off the edge. He is not unblocked, but he gets pretty close to Caleb Williams, which would allow a lot of quarterbacks. Again, they're tucking the ball, they're panicking. Not so. Boom, quick movement right there. That was the most mature thing I think he did all day, was find a way out of pressure. When most quarterbacks wouldn't have had the presence of mind, does a great job. Again, now look, eyes are downfield. He doesn't tuck it and run. He's looking downfield, trying to make a play, trying to allow his football team to get yards as opposed to just trying to eat it and get out of this play and get a good punt off. And this is like 60 yards in the air, which is unbelievable. He's got one-on-one. He knows he's got man coverage, so he's able to let it go. Let's see if we can back it up a little bit for you. Anytime you have man coverage, it means you're typically having a defensive back face guard your receiver. So meaning he's not all the way looking back at the ball like he would be in zone. He's right up with that receiver trying to make sure he doesn't get left because that's his guy. So credit to Caleb Williams. He sees that, lets it go, and this DB is late to the football. He gets his head around just in time. He puts it right where his man can get it. Marvin Mims, outside shoulder. Huge, huge play. I mean, again, 60 yards in the air, Paul.
I still can't believe they only got a field goal after that, but still, and that was part of the key to that game, was Lincoln Riley knowing exactly, okay, let's just chip away. Also not putting a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams. It was really smart of Lincoln Riley to not, okay, after that drive, okay, you get a field goal, get it. You're within one score. You're not telling him you got to score a touchdown now, and allowed Caleb to just stay level.
And how about the guts of him, too, to have the moxie to make a throw like that? I mean, most 19-year-olds tucking in and running, they're probably getting sacked before that play even gets started. He had a lot of things going on up here that allowed him to play so well in this game. So this was the one that I think just put everyone's jaw on the floor. 3rd and 19, you're down by 8 against your rival. I mean, you're a 19-year-old true freshman, which we can't say enough times. Like, this was the play that I think really solidified, okay, Caleb Williams is probably your guy. If you didn't already know by now, Caleb Williams is probably your guy. Similar to the last play, gets pressure off the edge, which they got real problems here at Oklahoma with the offensive line. You're bringing 3. Gets it away. So this is like, again, 55 yards in the air. Look where the ball is. Only this much real estate to work with. If he leaves it inside, you got a man over here that can come over and make a play. You got your DB right here who's close to the play anyway. There was nowhere else to go with this football except for right here, which is, what are we going to call it, like 3 yards if we're generous? That is not a lot of real estate to work with. And on the run, 55 yards on a dime spot where only your man can get it. He deserves all the credit in the world. Now, the catch is nice. Don't get me wrong. The catch is incredible. But there's no way this football gets completed without that throw in that spot. Comes down with it. Take the roof off the place.
Yeah, I'm still in awe of that actual play.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
It shouldn't be a thing that happens in the actual normal physical world.
No, it was unbelievable. I mean, he looked Patrick Mahomes-esque at 19.
Yeah.
He's a freak.
So, yeah, and I think he's the quarterback now.
Yeah.
I think there's no going back. And if there is going back and it works, then Lincoln Riley is some sort of shaman.
Yeah. Some kind of football shrink.
Yeah, exactly. Because right now it looks like Caleb Williams has this team and Spencer Rattler doesn't. And it's because of stuff like this that Spencer Rattler has not done all year.
We talked about it earlier in the show. Let's say they do go back to Spencer Rattler. They're playing TCU. Spencer Rattler throws a pick on the second drive of the game. Even if you're his teammate, how do you not say, oh my gosh, well, when Caleb was in the game, we were scoring more points. He was throwing it 55 yards.
Yeah.
Back shoulder, Marvin Mims. I'm just saying, I think if he doesn't start, it's still Caleb Williams' team.
Absolutely, yeah. Great stuff again on Chalk Talk by JD. This is a big one, too, here on 365 Sports. Please like and subscribe. We don't want the weather gods angry. We don't want them angry. I don't want to have to sacrifice a yak or something. I've done it before. I'll do it again. But thank you also to Shorty's Pizza Shack for their continued sponsorship of this show. And if you're in town, going down to Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby, check out shortyspizzashack.com for the daily slice board. Try the Sikkim sauce wings. Do something. Believe me, BYU fans in town, go on there and have it. I know that you won't drink the beer, so that's more for me. But please go in, enjoy Shorty's Pizza Shack. Thank you to them for their sponsorships. Thanks to JD Pickell. Thanks to Jack McKenzie and to Armstrong Sims. This is the big one, too, on 365 Sports.